David Frost here says, quote, "You might think you have to be a British citizen to vote in British elections. Not a bit of it. Millions can do so. Nearly half of Africa, all Indians and Pakistanis, in fact, getting on for a third of the entire world's population can vote here if they can get here." Well, we did our calculations this afternoon. It's actually more than a third. Any citizen of a Commonwealth country can vote if they are living, working, or studying here. Estimates suggest that in 2021, there were around 2 million Commonwealth citizens in the UK, most without a British passport. That's to say, most not British citizens legally. Since then, we have had another 2.5 million people net coming into the country, many from Commonwealth nations. Yes, some will be children, but it is plausible to think that between 2 and 3 million Commonwealth citizens are or could be on the electoral roll, and that number will be increasing every single year. Numbers, and this is the thing, numbers on this scale could easily start to distort electoral outcomes, especially since foreign voters will certainly be concentrated in certain areas. Well, I would go further myself, and I would say that it's already distorting electoral outcomes. When you look at many of the Labour people, for example, who got elected, many of them in certain parts of England will only have got elected as a consequence of the votes of people who are not even British citizens. He goes on here and actually says, "We already see Labour MPs taking up the Gaza issue, and we now have some Tories arguing India's case in the brewing conflict with Pakistan. But how many of those whose votes they are trying to attract are British citizens at all?" And he just concludes, he says, "It's all a mess. It's time our rules were tightened up to bring our elections into line with what most people think and want. We can do it with a very simple 4-point plan. 1, only British citizens should get to vote and stand in British elections. And by the way, we should also be much stricter with who we give citizenship to. Absolutely. We've always said that. Our view is British citizenship after 25 years legal residence. At the moment, you can swing it if you're here simply for 6 years, which is just such a giveaway. It's incredible. Second, you should have to prove your status to get on the electoral register. Third, you should be required to identify yourself with proper ID at the polling station. Well, we're some considerable way towards that anyway already. And fourth, all voting rules for all elections should be set nationally, by which he means here should be set from the centre. The powers of devolved quote-unquote governments, he actually puts it in quotes, which I like, to set their own franchise should be revoked. Of course, Labour won't do this, but opposition parties should commit to it. And I like what he says here finally. British democracy shouldn't be open to people who wander into the country for a couple of years. It is for people who are born to this country or have chosen to commit themselves to it. It is not a right, but it is a privilege. Most people think this already. Time to make it like that in real life. Very good article. Only British citizens deserve the vote. David Frost, well done for putting that together, mate.